to smile. I mean, there's a little bit of blue sky out there. Maybe that was the summer. Maybe it's come and gone.
It could have done. But, of course, the problem that we have is that every week we wait to the same news, don't we? There's more migrants now coming than ever before. 100,000 is the number we're told. I think yesterday was another new record, 750. We're going to talk about that later, but also we're going to talk about another junior doctor strike, 4 more days, more delays, more cancellations.
There's so many strikes everywhere from the various public services that actually it's barely newsworthy. Unless, of course, sadly, you're due to have some a medical intervention, an operation or something, in which case the likelihood it's going to be postponed or cancelled.
Exactly. I mean, I talk to people who are trying to travel around the country all the time. My son went up to Manchester this week to try and have a look at a university course. You know, incredible, difficult time getting there and back on the roads of this country. There's too many lorries, too many cars, too many traffic jams.
And now you've got to worry about airplanes landing on dual
an aeroplane that landed on the A40.
What a miracle.
I mean, incredible. But yeah, it's just, I mean, everything is so difficult now, isn't it? Everything is so much more hard to do, it seems.
And it seems that it's pretty hard for the economy to grow as well, because the latest numbers out for the second quarter of this year from the ONS shows that, yes, the economy has grown by a brilliant 0.2% over a quarter. That's great. So following on from 0.1% in the first quarter, Jeremy Hunt seems to be celebrating that essentially, yes, OK, we're spluttering just above recession. Let's remind everybody who wants to blame Brexit that actually the Eurozone and Germany have been in recession. Germany is still in recession. But look, 20 years ago...
Well, they're trying to get Harry Kane over to build
they're having to try and boost their prospects, so good luck with that. But the reality is, it's easy to forget. 20 years ago, our economy was regularly growing at between 2.5% and 4% every single year.
And what was driving that?
If you just double this 0.3%, you get a great 0.6%, 0.7%. I mean, this is feeble, it's anemic, and it's got nothing to do with Brexit. I get that out straight away. It's all to do with high taxes, high, useless, wasteful government spending, productivity going through the floor, and as you just touched on, people working from home, doing yoga classes.
It'll come as no surprise to you that I was listening this morning to a government minister talking on the BBC who kept going on about Brexit being to blame, and even he wasn't going to go for that. But he was talking an awful lot about the productivity levels of the public sector, suggesting that the productivity levels of the public sector are now so low that it's kind of knocking everything into the negative.
And of course, that's right. It's basically obvious that if you increase state spending and you raise taxes, you're taking money out of the innovative, creative, productive part of the economy that drives activity and growth and oomph. And therefore, we shouldn't be surprised when we hear that the high street is struggling desperately. You know, thousands and thousands of shops have been shutting every month and every 6 months, every year. I think last year, some 17,000 stores closed in 2022, I read. Some very famous names that we all know, and for many people, they were sort of the bedrock of high streets, whether it was the House of Fraser, whether it was Debenhams, you know, Top Shop, Top Man, all of these brands.
Wilko's now gone.
Wilko's gone.
It's interesting. I mean, I'm looking at a piece of the Times today, the GB vacancy rate. I don't know what it's like elsewhere in the world, but we're currently running at around 13.9% vacancies in shops, which is quite high.
It's huge, and it has such a debilitating effect on the high street in many, many ways. And it's high for a couple of reasons. Obviously, with the impact of the internet and home deliveries, therefore, if you're running a business from a warehouse, you don't have to pay the expensive high street rates. Councils that have imposed expensive parking charges, business rates too high.
Notice, right? If you travel around the country, these giant warehouses now, which are literally the size of small towns, just on the sides of motorways.
That's right.
You know, and you wonder what on earth's going on. And then you think, all of these people getting home deliveries, is that the reason why there's so much traffic on the roads? There's thousands and thousands of trucks delivering stuff to your house.
Absolutely right. And so, but they're paying very much lower business rates. And so it's basically this huge disparity. It's basically unfair, which is why I've been saying for many years that you should increase the business rates for these large online delivery logistics warehouses and dramatically reduce the business rates for the high street to try and create a more level playing field, because high streets are the bedrock of so many communities.
They really are.
And whether it's, you know, the extraordinary, horrific scenes we saw this just a couple of nights ago in Oxford Street, you look at that, and Oxford Street, it's full of empty shops. It's full of candy shops that nobody wants, that doesn't pay any rents, and there's all sorts of other related scandals around that.
I was saying this yesterday when I was growing up in London. I lived not that far from Oxford Street. You'd go to Oxford Street as a kind of special treat to go and find a shop that was only in Oxford Street.
Absolutely.
And it was like a big deal, and you had to go buy a new outfit for a job or something like that. That's where you would go.
That's where you would go, but it's in a dire strait. And M&S, for example, Marks and Spencer, they want to redevelop their historic flagship store to create huge investment, and that genius Michael Gove has prevented them from a huge
the dead hand,
£100 million multi-million pound investment.
The dead hand of Michael Gove reaches into all sorts of places.
It really does. And so what happens is all of these empty shops, I mean, you go there now, you will see dozens and dozens of people, homeless people, basically sheltering outside these shops overnight on Oxford Street, and it's really shocking. And so it's sadly it's a catalogue of decline, and then we're seeing the sort of completely sort of feral activity of youths who think they can just roam up and down these high streets with impunity, with no fear of any consequences, and when they fancy it, just run into one shop and get a whole load of stuff.
Let's not forget also, it's not just in London, it's outside of London where some of these closings of shops are felt even more badly, because you'll see in every high street now, you'll see a charity shop growing up, you'll see one of these Turkish barbers.
You'll see lots of Turkish barbers.
Most people will say is a sort of money laundering exercise. But when the growth rates were higher at 2 to 4%, why was that? What was the growth that we were seeing then that we're not seeing now?
It's very simple, because the total tax take was less than 30%, okay, back in the late 1990s. I mean, and the government, when they handed over to Tony Blair, they handed over a high growth economy with a very strong balance sheet, and it was lowly taxed, and you know, we didn't have unlimited huge quantities of low-skilled immigration, and we know the reality that what you're seeing now, you've had mass immigration for 15 years. Even the Office for Budget Responsibility admits that has led to almost no growth per head. And all that's happened is taxes have gone up, wasteful, unproductive government spending's gone up. Government spending now is a whisker under half of the size of the economy. And so we're in a terrible, terrible state, and we're not alone. You're seeing it across much of the EU as well.
And let's not forget that, you know, for years and years and years, we here at TalkTV and previously as Talk Radio were sort of, you know, lambasted for making immigration a big deal, for talking about it when nobody else did. You know, the idea that now we're paying out £6 million a day in taxpayers' money to fund these hotels. God knows what else we're going to be paying out over the course of the coming year. 100,000 people have now come. 750 people came yesterday alone. You know, finally, the BBC and others have woken up to this actually being a story. But they still don't really understand what it is about the story that people are upset about. I'm going to be talking later on in the show to a guy from Bexhill, where they want to put more migrants into this former military prison. And the people are up in arms. They're having another demonstration this weekend. Ordinary people don't want it.
Well, here's the point, that actually good, ordinary, concerned communities up and down the country are really anxious about this. The impact on the community, the job losses in their respective towns, villages, when hotels get shut, 50 to 100 people get laid off, made redundant from every single hotel, and all of a sudden 100 to 200 young men just suddenly appear with essentially nothing to do, just sort of meander around the high street, and the whole thing is it's deeply troubling, and it's causing huge anxiety and concern, and people are genuinely fearful.
Of course they are, and there's no reason why they shouldn't be. The idea that all these kind of metropolitan liberals sit around in Kensington and go, I don't know what you're worried about, it's absolutely fine. Well, it isn't fine, actually. This is Talk TV. I'm Mike Graham. Richard Tice is with me. We'll be back with more after this.